Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's here in the Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten. It's a pleasure to welcome you back here in I thought the day of spring, but who knows, we had winter yesterday. But I'm pleased to have with me State Senator Dan Phelps, who's in between meetings at the State House, and I'm glad you could get here for a few minutes there. And
yeah, you got it. It's great to be here.
I know, you haven't lost your red hair yet. You still got no gray hair yet. So
it's not gray yet.
Well, I'm telling you, how in the world do you do it? I don't know. You really have been on the fire lately, but...
Well, there's a lot going on at the State House. As you know, we have Medicaid expansion. We reached I think a reasonable reauthorization of Medicaid expansion.
I thought the House just voted on that.
Voted on it, 100 vote margin. However, It was referred to House Finance, and the Republican leadership in House Finance seems to want to unravel the bipartisan progress we made on this. And so, hopefully, the bipartisan coalition will stick together because Medicaid expansion is so important. 50,000 granted staters. Have health insurance through it, as you know. Yeah. It's the single most effective way to combat the heroin and opioid public health epidemic, and it reduces uncompensated care in the system, which is a hidden tax on everyone. So the most expensive way to deliver health care is for people to go to the emergency room. Uninsured emergency room visits are down 20 to 40%, depending on the year, significantly down. And that has reduced uncompensated care, which is something that's spread over everybody, which is why the Business and Industry Association and other business groups also support Medicaid expansion. And so it's so important that we move forward on it. So critical. There's some key reforms in this package. We make sure that behavioral health is taken care of. We do more preventative care. We're really focusing on the patient, even more so than in the past. It obviously goes from premium assistance plan in the open market to Medicaid managed care. But there are a whole host of revisions and changes that I think make good sense. There are some elements of it that are fairly controversial, but we've worked together in a bipartisan way. I'm just hopeful that the Republicans in House Finance don't unravel the hard-fought compromise that we reached and instead move forward. It's so important that we put people and problem solving above this political stuff. And that's what we were sent there to do. That's what we've done so far on Medicaid expansion. Look, I'm not enamored with the final product, but it's a reasonable compromise. And what you need to do is you got to work together as much as you can to solve real problems. And the reauthorization of Medicaid expansion was so critical. So hopefully the Republican leadership in House Finance doesn't tank this bill.
I hope not. Anyway, and of course the other one I'm having a little hard time on is Marcy's Law, that bill. I get told one day the governor's favoring it, another day he's not in favor of it. I've gotten 2 calls from lobbyists about it because they claim the Concord delegation is split on this thing. Then I read in the paper that the states who have voted it in, now some of them are trying to get out of it because they don't like it, South Dakota being one. But yet, I thought, from what I've been reading on it, it sounds like a good bill. But what are your thoughts? You voted on this, right? The Senate voted on this already.
Right.
And what was it in there?
So it passed the Senate by a vote of 20-3. Ultimately, I supported it because there was major revisions to it, including more closely aligning the language with the existing statutory Victims' Bill of Rights, including making sure due process, in my view, was largely protected by getting rid of some language that says that victims' rights shall be enforced no less vigorously than defendants' rights. And also changing some of the ways in which it operates, including basically making the rights an opt-in kind of right-based system rather than an automatic right-based system. And so I think those were key reforms. We had a 3-hour floor debate on it. There were amendments offered, and I argued in favor of a couple amendments, and one of those passed. And based on the revisions that were made, based on my input, the input of others, and ultimately I supported it. I understand that the House is going to have a vigorous debate about it too, and it should. All of these things should have significant and vigorous debate, and we'll see what happens with it.
No, I understand that that's not coming up in our house, in the House until May, somewhere early May. I'm going to be gone next week to Seattle, but I just hope, I'm hoping that I'll be there for that vote. And they said it would be not until May, so. Okay. But I do want to get some more information on it, because I want to make sure I know exactly what, sometimes I don't go to some of these committee meetings because it's just the same. You said, I said, they didn't say. I want to see the thing myself and do my own research, and I can vote for what I feel, or if I get some calls from the constituents. I mean, I had gotten a letter last week, email along with about, I think 100 others from this gentleman really banging us about something that we voted on or whatever.
Yeah.
And I normally don't answer them, but this one I did. And I told him, and I said, I listen to my constituents first. And then I go into it, and then I do my research and stuff, and then, when the time comes to vote, then I will then listen. Because they do change things, sometimes comes out of committee, and sometimes even when you're saying, like you're saying, they offer amendments and all this stuff, and so then I found out he comes from Manchester. I said, and I told him, I said, you need to contact your Manchester people. Concord is not, we don't cover you, as far as, And so, turned out to be like my best friend. Now he writes so nice, oh boy, just so impressed, so anyway, but, you just never know these people.
Yeah, you definitely got to go through that process of listening to people, really looking into things, and certainly that's been the process in this. It's certainly been the process in another major piece of legislation, family and medical leave insurance, that the House passed, that the governor now opposes. He campaigned on it, supporting paid family leave. Now he opposes this bipartisan family and medical leave insurance bill. As a consequence of his opposition, the Senate Finance Committee voted on party lines just a little bit ago to quote-unquote interim study the bill, which is another way of killing it this year. So Governor Sununu has sabotaged paid family leave, and it's unfortunate because it's been bipartisan all the way, but now he's come out and really whacked at it. And it's so critical to finally move forward on it for working families, for people who have kids to have some time with their kid without risking their family's economic livelihood if they have a new kid, or if they have a disabled child, caretaking of a disabled child, or God forbid you have a spouse who may be dying, having some time with your spouse without risking your family's economic livelihood. Temporary wage replacement insurance, family medical leave insurance, is so important. It's important to attracting and retaining the workforce we need. It's important to combating the opioid epidemic. It's important for caretaking for our seniors, and Governor Sununu opposes it. That's unfortunate, especially since he campaigned on it.
That's odd. So, do you think you yourself, for the filing period coming up another month, you're going to try again for state senate, or do you think you're going to try to move up to the governorship?
Well, Aaron and I thought long and hard about this, and we have a 8-month-old daughter at home, Iris, and doing a statewide campaign right now is just not very practical. That being said, we're still very committed to public service and still very committed on all of these issues that help expand economic opportunity for everyone, not just those at the very top, not just the elite, the folks who... the folks who lobbied Governor Sununu to oppose family and medical leave insurance, they're already doing okay. We need to look out for low to middle income people, working class folks on the Heights, Ward 8, 9, 10. That's what this is all about. And I'm going to run for state senate again to stand up for working people.
So you're not going to try to go for governor then?
In 2018, I'm running for state senate. Represent District 15. It's an honor to represent District 15, Concord, Hopkinton, Henniker, Warner. Pennacook, and I'm going to do my best to stand up and fight tirelessly for everybody, from working family in the Heights to the organic farmer out in Henniker. I'm going to stand up and continue to fight for everybody and do the best we can. Look, we've got a lot of progress
done.
You
didn't say, no, I'm not going to be a candidate for governor. You're still kind of hedging.
I am running for state senate in 2018.
So, okay, now we got that done.
We got a lot to work on, Dick. As you know, we got Medicaid expansion, family leave. Hopefully, maybe the Senate will reverse course, even though Governor Sununu opposes family leave. Maybe we can get something done on child protection. We have some critical child protection bills that are in the hopper. In Governor Sununu's budget, he did not fund so-called voluntary services for at-risk children, youth, and family. Then Governor Sununu's appointed child advocate issued a report that said that a murder-suicide of a child in Derry was likely a consequence of the failure to reinstitute voluntary services. And so we're trying to correct that problem with Governor Sununu's budget, but as you may imagine, there's some opposition from some Republicans because they don't want to acknowledge that these mistakes were made.
Yeah.
You know what? We just got to move forward. We got to move forward, recognize mistakes were made, recognize that even though an independent audit report released in December of 2016 recommended fund this, just a couple months later, Governor Sununu didn't do it. We got to recognize that. We got to recognize that we should have done it in response to that audit report, and we need to stand up for child protection. And as a new dad, this is rings home, and especially poignant. It changes your perspective on things, and making sure that we look out for our state's children and we look out for child safety and child protection should be something that we should all get on board with. So we passed that bill, a series of bills on child protection out of the state Senate. They're now in the House Finance Committee. They face the same kind of problems that Medicaid expansion unfortunately faces, which is the Republican leadership on House Finance doesn't like it too much, and it sounds like they're going to cut here and there. I hope they don't, because child safety is so important.
And of course, I'm still hoping that the passenger trains will come back, because it's funny because Chris and I, well, I should say the governor and I, we have a good relationship in talking about everything except politics, but we get talking about the train, and I said, hey, wait a minute here. You made the remark that if Amazon was coming in here, you'd have a train here within 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Basically. And I said, now because they're not coming here, and frankly, I didn't think they would, but anyway, I said, I hope that your stance is still on promoting to getting a passenger train in here, commuter train in here. Hopefully it would come to Concord, but I don't think that'll happen, but I'm hoping it will. But eventually, at least getting it to Manchester or whatever. And he started to say, hey, wait a minute, you are all for it now, and there's no doubt that people would take it. Yes, the tracks have got to be upgraded. And if not, I'm hoping Nashua still goes with their agreement that they started with this other outfit. But, who knows?
Well, the Governor Sununu has changed his position on this issue many times. He's changed his position on paid family leave. He's changed his position many times on how to fund kindergarten and what to do on kindergarten. He's changed his position on workforce development and job training. The only thing he hasn't really changed his position on is using public taxpayer dollars to subsidize private prep schools and religious schools, which is only going to increase property taxes on middle-income granite staters. He hasn't changed his position on supporting tax breaks for big corporations, many of which with headquarters out of state. Amazon got a tax break in Governor Sununu's budget without any commitment to come to the state of New Hampshire. So, look, this is the economic policies that Governor Sununu and our Republican colleagues, by and large, are putting forward. Hopefully, we can, in this final month or two of the session, work together on some concrete things, family leave, Medicaid expansion, child protection, maybe workforce, opioid epidemic. These are things that people expect us to work on, and not just, do the kind of willy-nilly flip-flopping and political sound bites that we're hearing a lot right now.
Well, I'm hoping that he doesn't continue to follow his, it'd be nice when I say this, his mentor in Washington, D.C. I told him when he first went in, I said, don't become Mr. Junior Trump, I said, because I said, do what you think is right, not what he thinks.
Well, I don't think anybody's Trump, and that's but in terms of the policies, in terms of what Governor Sununu has put forward as his policies, we've seen a lot of parallels with President Trump. The looking out for tax relief for the big guy instead of the little guy. Diverting property taxes to funnel to private prep schools and religious schools. Look, at the end of the day, most people watching this program, most people, period, can't afford to send their kid to one of these private prep schools. And, some money from the state isn't going to change that situation. It's only going to make it harder to fund public education, which we already have a problem in terms of making sure that we make our public schools funded the way they need to be, to reduce the pressure on property taxpayers. At the end of the day, the question is whether or not you're going to advance economic policies that help average everyday Granite Staters, or are you going to advance economic policies that help the big guy and those at the top. And we've seen the latter from our Republican colleagues at the State House right now. I'm hopeful that, at least in this final month, that things may change a little bit. We'll see. We'll see, though.
How come the state senate hasn't added more senators in there? I'm surprised at that, because you've got such a district. Some of them have. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's there's 24 state senators, there's 400 state reps, so there's a lot of work for the senators to do.
Why hasn't somebody decided to think we need 10 more senators than there or something?
I don't know. I think it was brought up to some degree at the Constitutional Convention in 1984.
So that's where it's going to come from.
And for whatever reason, they kept the State House at 400 and the senators at 24. We're the third smallest state senate in the country, and we have the largest state house. So, representatives are assigned to one committee, senators are assigned to typically 3 or more. There's a lot of work to be done. It offers an opportunity to work together. When there's only 24 of you, you can really work with people, and that's a good thing. But we're seeing, at least as we come into this last month of the session, that our Republican colleagues in the majority of the House and the Senate and the governorship are really kind of pursuing their fairly far right-wing ideological agenda. And that's not good. We need to come back to the middle, where most of the policy is crafted and reach reasonable results, like a reasonable and solvent family medical leave insurance program, like a reasonable Medicaid expansion program, like actually dealing with child safety and child protection. These aren't revolutionary concepts. They're pretty basic things that I think, by and large, people expect us to try to solve.
And again, Dan, what was this thing again about you and that car tax?
Well, I don't support a car tax. I don't support a...
where did that come from?
It came from the shenanigans of some local political people. And that's all right. You got First Amendment right, I guess, to do some of these things.
What was it supposed to be, for the cities or towns?
Well, I'm not entirely... What I would say is this, is I didn't make the signs.
No, but...
So I can't... and I didn't put them out. What I can say is that at the request of Mayor Jim Boulay and city councilors, I put in legislation to allow the city of Concord to debate and discuss parking maintenance, including parking garages, the costs and the benefits thereof. We're not a home rule state, which means cities and towns only have the authority that is given to them in terms of debating this stuff.
Yeah.
So this is what's called enabling legislation. I submit enabling legislation to allow local control, the Republican principle of local control. I've done that before. I support local control. I support local decision making.
Yeah.
So I submitted that. I don't personally support any kind of increased fee, but it's been cast as if I do. So, but that's just the political shenanigans of the day. What I'm focused on, and Concord taxpayers know, I've been working to protect them. I've been working to look out for property taxpayers. I submitted a working families property tax credit. I've been fighting for local control for Concord. I've been fighting for more state support for Concord, in some cases getting it, some cases not. But I've been looking out for the people in Concord, and I think people know that, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. And I'm going to continue to focus on working hard for the people of Concord, but also Hopkinton, Henniker, and Warner. I mean, those are the folks I'm fighting for. We talked about it earlier. I continue to fight for working folks, and I'm not going to let political shenanigans distract me.
Just drives you crazy, don't it?
Well, the reason I got into this is for public service and to help people and to stand up and fight for people and especially working folks and low to middle income people. And I knew getting into this that stuff like this could happen. So people are going to say whatever, even if it's not true, and this is not true. These signs are just false. People will say and do whatever they want in politics sometimes. And you know what? I think part of that's a function of the national environment.
Oh, yes.
President Trump is not attached to the truth, to say the least. And I think his kind of politics have filtered down, unfortunately. And it's incumbent upon all of us to just stick to the facts, stick to working hard on the issues that matter to people, and that's what it's all about.
Good.
All right. Well,
we're coming to our close of our own town, and certainly no. I mean, you don't get rich off being a state senator.
It's $100 a year, and I have
that's what you get.
That's $100
a year.
Too.
Yeah.
And it's but I have a very supportive wife, Erin, who financially and otherwise, and we're not in it for the money. We're in it to serve the public, and that's what it's about. And we'll continue to fight hard. If I have the honor of being reelected to the state senate, we're going to continue to fight hard to look out for working folks and expand economic opportunity for everyone, not just those at the top. That's what it's about.
We don't even get mileage either. So.
Yep.
Well, we'll let Dan get back to the State House, but if you have any questions, you know where he's at. You can always go at the State House. And again, please remember there are two sides to everything that you might read. It's not just one side, so there's two sides to it. And do your research. Just don't take what is printed in the newspaper or whatever. So
I agree with that. Yeah.
Exactly. So
all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Dan, and we'll hope to see you on filing day, first day of the first Wednesday of June, I believe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, first Wednesday of June. So,
yep.
With that in mind, thanking my director, Ian Marx, over there, and we look forward to seeing you soon on Around Town. I'm your host, Dick Patten.